It was August of 1977 in Oklahoma. Mary had just come home from the hospital. She was tired, weak, and sorting through the week's mail when she found a letter from her mother. Inside was a single paragraph that stopped her cold. It said her cousin had passed away. Mary sat at the kitchen table, reading that letter again and again. Then, the phone rang. She lifted the receiver and a familiar voice said, "Hi, Mary. This is Shirley." Mary froze. Her cousin had been gone for days. Thinking it was a mistake or a cruel joke, she hung up the phone. But seconds later, it rang again. The same voice came through the line. Soft, calm, kind. It asked how she was feeling. It told her not to worry. And then as the static grew louder, the voice said something that made her skin crawl. It said, "Mary, I'll call you again." Mary never forgot that moment. She told friends, family, anyone who would listen. She knew what she heard. That voice was real. Years later, a researcher named Scott Rogo heard about her case. He was studying something called phone calls from the dead, strange incidents where recently deceased were supposedly contacted by loved ones through ordinary telephone lines. By the late 1970s, he and a colleague named Raymond Bayless had gathered dozens of reports just like Mary's. Calls that lasted only seconds, voices faint and buried under static, almost always happening within days of a death. They documented everything, the dates, the witnesses, the recordings, and published it all in a book in 1979. The stories came from all over the world. One came from Italy, where a woman had just lost her husband early morning. A few hours later, her phone rang. A man's voice said, "Why are you still home? I'm waiting for you." It was her husband's voice, perfectly clear and impossible to explain. The researchers never found a consistent pattern. Sometimes the calls came through disconnected lines. Sometimes the numbers didn't trace back anywhere. But the details were always eerily similar. Brief conversations, a burst of static, then just silence. Skeptics said it was imagination or interference from another line. Some thought the calls were hallucinations brought on by grief. But Rogo kept investigating. He believed the experiences were too detailed to ignore, too consistent to dismiss. He continued his research into the 80s. Then in 1990, he was found in his California home. His killer was never identified. After his death, most scientists stopped looking into the phenomena. The subject quietly faded into obscurity. Just one more mystery filed away under things that couldn't be proven. And yet, the reports never stopped completely. Every few years, someone claimed to get the same kind of call. A familiar voice, a few words, then just silence. For those who experienced it, there was no doubt who they heard. A loved one, a final message, and a promise that still lingers through the static. "I'll call you again." Now, even decades later, Rogo and Bayless's book, Phone Calls from the Dead, continues to be studied